look at the bottom of our discussion today, talking about AfTA, African Continental Free Trade Agreement that Nigeria is part of, and today we're having someone who is part and parcel of the, all and all about AfTA, who will be telling us more about Nigeria and AfTA. Professor Jonathan Aremu. A very good day to you, Prof. A very good day to you, Prof.
Good day. How are you, sir? Are you hearing me?
Prof, are you there? Hello. Very good day to you.
Good day.
All right, sir. Let's get the discussion set, sir. A very good day to you.
Okay.
All right, sir. On your assessment of African Continental Free Trade, what can you tell Nigerians so far, the story so far? Over the last 5 years, Africans have been pushing for this to happen, and we can see it happening on the continent. For the first time, African countries are now together to trade, intertrade, and also to engage themselves wisely. How far and so far, how is the story so far from your own end as an observer, someone with the ECOWAS, and someone who is so much, part and parcel of this African Continental Free Trade?
Thank you very much, and thank you, viewers, for another opportunity to hear my views on this very important matter on the continental economic integration. When you look at the historical antecedent of the entire Africa, we were colonized and then divided into pieces that we don't want. And we were divided into different communities, even against the cultural affiliations. And therefore, after the independence of quite a lot of the country by 1963, Africans think that we need to actually come back together as a one body. And therefore, OAU was put in place. After OAU was put in place, there was development of economic integration here and there. OAU was put in place in 1963. But thereafter, quite a lot of regional economic integration was put in place. Gowon, as well as the president of Togo, actually came up with the idea of having ECOWAS, Economic Community of West African States. And therefore, in 1975, African and ECOWAS was put in place. And this year, ECOWAS is going to be 50 years old. Now we have different economic integration within the continent. But that is not actually the ambition of the founding fathers of Africa immediately after their political independence. They wanted to come together. Therefore, an initiative was put together in which, in 1980, we have the legal plan of action, which actually talk about integrating the entire continent. And you see, I call it legal plan of action because the entire continent think that they have to meet in Lagos because of the importance of Lagos to the continent. Then, by 1991, the decision that was arrived at in 1980, legal plan of action was concretized under African Economic Community Treaty. And that African Economic Community Treaty was equally known as the Abuja Treaty. So with Abuja,
all right, as we expect connection with Prof, and he's making a very laudable historical background to what we have today. All right, Prof, go ahead, sir. All right, Prof is making a very laudable background, aspect to ECOWAS.
Sorry, I was caught.
All right, go ahead, sir. Go ahead. You can continue from where you stopped, sir.
Okay, I'm back. So I did not know where I stopped, but I talk of a legal plan of action.
Yes, I think that's exactly where you stopped, sir.
Accumulated into thereafter developed into African Economic Community Treaty, also known as Abuja Treaty of 1991. The other Abuja Treaty of 1991, a sequence of economic integration was put in place. that we actually put together the entire continent with a free trade area, followed by customs union, followed by common market, and then lastly, economic union. Each of these phases of economic integration is patterned along the phases of the usually known economic integration in economic theory. That is to say that initially, we shall be training among ourselves without import duty. Thereafter, we shall be imposing common import duty on other people that are training with us. Hope you are hearing me?
Very well, sir. Very well.
Okay. Thereafter, we are going to have a common market in which there is going to be policy congruence between the entire African countries in terms of agri, in terms of investment, in terms of industry. And then lastly, we are going to have economic union, possibly, and I say possibly, with a single currency. So this is it. Then by 2012, the African head of state think that it is now time for us to actually move towards this sequence of economic integration. And therefore, in 2015, negotiation on the first phase of economic integration was put in place, and that is known as African Continental Free Trade Area. That is the first phase of economic integration, in which we shall be trading along African countries without import duties. Nigerian goods can enter South Africa without import duty. Kenya product can enter Nigeria without import duty. Product of Egypt can go to Senegal without import duty. That is free trade area. Let me say before then, the African head of state, because of the fact that we have multiplicity of economic integration, they now recognize only 8 RECs, Regional Economic Community. Even in ECOWAS, though we have the English-speaking zone and the French-speaking zone, it's only ECOWAS, Economic Community of Africa, that was recognized. So that is the beginning of it. And then with African Continental Free Trade Area, a sequence of negotiation resumed, honestly in 2016, and in March 2018, an agreement was reached at Kigali, which is the agreement of African Continental Free Trade Area. And countries signed. Unfortunately, Nigeria did not sign because the head of state then, President Muhammadu Buhari, thought that we have not got enough sensitization. But he came back home, or at home, he said, let us put a readiness to participate, a research readiness to participate. So that readiness and assessment study was put in place. And after that one, on the 7th of July 2019, Nigeria actually signed African Continental Free Trade Area. Now, since you want to know the historical content, on the 5th of December 2020, Nigeria actually ratified the African Continental Free Trade Area. But let me say this, because we were not foundation members, we did not sign when other countries signed. Then when they were discussing where the headquarters will be, Nigeria cannot actually say they want to host it. Despite the fact that the initial development of African Continental Plan of Economic Integration was Lagos Plan of Action and Abuja Treaty of 1991. So Nigeria cannot actually be penciled down to hold it. Also, they cannot choose any Nigeria, no matter how knowledgeable you are, to actually work at the headquarters of the country that is choosing to host African Continental Free Trade. I'm not minding that Nigeria actually went ahead, and then with the resident assessment, with the ratification, Nigeria put in place a study, a national strategy, assisted by UNECA, of what the national strategy to be able to go into Africa should be, African Continental Free Trade Area should. And that was concluded 2022. By that time, when it was concluded, in October 2022, the Guided Trade Initiative was already put in place to test run the African Continental Free Trade Area. So Nigeria cannot actually be among the first countries that will do that because of the latecomer position which you are. But later, Nigeria, under the leadership of the current African Continental Free Trade Area Coordination Office, who is in person of Segun Awolowo, Nigeria actually entered into the guided trade initiative, which is to be able to be the first step in trading on the African Continental Free Trade Area. And that was July 2024. That was launched in Apapa, and the Secretary to the Federal Government represented the head of state. And you are very much aware of what is happening now, that Nigerian product is now being shipped to African countries.
Exactly.
So, let me say that we have to congratulate Nigeria. Though we started a little bit late, Nigeria is fully prepared to participate on the African Continental Free Trade Area.
Thank you so much, Prof. I think this your background historical aspect of AfCFTA is very, very laudable, very interesting, and I know most of our viewers will now understand the basis for AfCFTA. But there's one particular critical question people are asking. The essence of tariff removal, and it was being claimed that this essence of tariff removal is to boost AfCFTA. Do you agree that this is the main aspect that will make AfCFTA to be more better and more stronger and ensure this economic integration that Africa people are looking for?
Yeah, you see, under economic integration theory, because the theory of economic integration is an advanced theory of economics. And under it, and as supported by WTO under Article 24, right?
Yes.
When you are going to economic of WTO or what organization, when you are actually going to economic integration, you are going to give yourself preferences. That means you are going to trade better than the way you are trading with the entire world. And how do you do that? You remove tariff between yourself. And that is supported by the GATT of World Trade Organization. What is GATT? General Agreement of Trade and Tariff. So, which means you are going to remove tariff. And when you remove tariff, you see, there are a lot of explanation for removing tariff. Let us say that a particular product can be produced in Nigeria, can be produced in Ghana, can be produced in China. If the cost of production in China, right, is only $30, the cost of production in Ghana is $40. The cost of production in Nigeria is $50. That means that the production cost is highest in Nigeria, but cheaper in Ghana and cheapest in China. Now, if you don't remove tariff between Nigeria and Ghana, then the product from China will still be coming in. So Nigeria, under the Free Trade Area Agreement of ECOWAS, which is equally known as ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme, which is AfCFTA now, it has not removed the name, but because we have a similar something in ECOWAS, that's why we call our own ETLS, ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme. So when you put an import duty of 50%, then that will mean that you'll be able to screen out China. Because the product of Ghana will now enter Nigeria tax-free. But because in Ghana equally will remove tariff from product coming from Nigeria, then Ghana will buy from Nigeria as opposed to buying from either France or USA on that particular product. So under economic integration, that is why we have two important things. Trade creation between Nigeria and Ghana by diverting from other cheaper countries in the world using tariff. That is why tariff is a very important component of economic integration. So that is why.
Exactly. I agree with you, because there's another issue that is being raised, particularly to ensure that this tariff work effectively, on the aspect of custom procedure. Should we be expecting any challenge in the area of custom procedure, or all agreements have captured this aspect of custom procedure effectiveness to guarantee benefit for all members?
That's a very good question. Very, very important question. There are a few important developments which Nigeria are trying to use for this. Number one, you see, as a member of ECOWAS, we have to operate certain things in uniformity, in agreement, under a harmonized environment. And therefore, in July 2023, quite a lot of tax harmonization was done, including the VAT, which we are discussing and we are discussing now. You see, you cannot actually agree to increase your VAT and then come back home you say you can't do it. That is against international law. There's a principle in international law known as pact sunt servanda. Pact sunt servanda means that, and that is under the Vienna Convention of 1969, whatever you agree upon an international treaty must be obeyed. So the serialization of the VAT, which is recommended by the Fiscal Harmonization Committee, is in order. It's in order. So there is, you see, you cannot, one country, they have moved their VAT up, and then we have agreed we are going to move our own up. So the National Assembly and other people discussing this, they need to know this basic fact. Also, I was privileged to actually do a study by the World Bank for the Federal Ministry of Finance called Trade, Taxation and Customs Policy Study. And what is the essence of it? The essence of it is that we are having all this kind of ECOWAS liberalization, after liberalization, where we are moving away from tax, collecting tax. How will government be able to have access to revenue? And then the study came out that what we need to do is to firm up the tax administration under number one.
Go ahead, sir.
Known as, hello?
Go ahead.
Okay, under a single window. And then under a situation in which we have harmonization of every activities of the customs, as well as FRS or whatever issue that comes up later, in terms of taxation of things affecting goods and services. And then more importantly, to have a sort of a minister that will be in charge of all these things so that the clarity in the implementation will actually be okay. And that is why the supervising role of Federal Ministry of Finance is very important in all this, to make sure that ministries, departments, and agencies of the government that need to do one thing or the other about trade, they actually understand this. That is one of the main reasons for the Minister of Finance to be able to make sure that other institutions are actually working in tandem with all those things. In fact, the issue of single window, the way it is now, in which they say it's under FRS, for me, that is not good. It should actually be under the Ministry of Finance. The Ministry of Finance is an umbrella institution in which every other ministries actually have one thing or the other to do with financing, and therefore they should be in charge.
Exactly.
So that is why, so in terms of custom procedure, government is putting in a lot of things, particularly single window and others, to be able to make sure that we can trade better. And more importantly, even beyond custom procedure is the issue of transportation. If you don't have a good transportation system and put in place possibly intermodal and multimodal transportation system, you won't enjoy international trade. And therefore, these are some of the things in which the Ministry of Transport, the blue and marine economy, they need to come together to put together intermodal and multimodal transportation system to be able to enhance a better implementation of African Continental Free Trade Area. So the custom activity is being worked upon. We make a lot of recommendations under that study. There are quite many things that allow for that kind of reform to take place. So with a very good reformation taking place, I think Nigeria will be able to operate better.
Exactly. I agree with you, Prof. But there are others who will also want to disagree or want to argue on this matter, particularly the show of slowness in Nigerian, signing the AfCFTA. Then later on, we have to do our own personal study, do our own national study, and come up with what we think is more better for us. But there's this argument around our trading with these African countries, particularly the level of this trading. And I will ask, and I beg, and I know you will help us to answer this question. In this regard, we're talking about the Nigerian business community. how are they embracing AfCFTA? Because it's very key. Because government will not be the one doing the business. It is the business community in Nigeria that will eventually do it. I remember when the Nigerian-Kenya shipments went, they were consignment that went to Kenya were laudable. Then Uganda also went. Then other African countries are also going. But the business community like NASIMA, Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, how are they embracing AfCFTA? Since you are an insider in this regard.
Luckily, I'm an insider in NASIMA, a member of NASIMA. Exactly. I'm the chairman of AfCFTA State Group, and my company is a member of NASIMA. Now, also, man, you see, the initial skeptical about the organized private sector came as a result of the initial understanding we have under the Economic Partnership Agreement with European Union, in which European Union wanted to sign more or less the same thing, free trade area with ECOWAS, which will affect Nigeria. And why was that becoming a necessity? Because WTO came up in 1995, and therefore the preferences which the Caribbean Pacific countries were enjoying with European Union can no longer go ahead in terms of allowing their product to enter the European free of duty. Because there is a principle, which is the most important nation principle. Whatever you do to A, you must do to B. So you cannot be giving the Caribbean Pacific countries a sort of preferences without giving to other people. Therefore, European Union came up to say, look, we cannot continue violating all this WTO law. We have to have an economic partnership agreement in form of a free trade area. And both Manufacturers Association of Nigeria and NASIMA, they look at having a free trade area in which goods will enter Nigeria freely without import duty, and Nigerian goods will enter EU freely. Is a David and Goliath relationship.
Serious.
Which, if not going to be because of God intervention, is going to be turned to slavery. Because we may have a lot to buy from European Union. What do we have to say to them? And that kind of perception is the perception a lot of the organized private sector has when it came to African continental free trade area. Forgetting the antecedents of the history, which I mentioned, that African Union want to come together. This is now our own. Whatever has been produced in Nigeria and go to other African countries should be allowed to go. And that is why they need to embrace it. And right now, you mentioned that the products are moving to Kenya, it's moving to Uganda. Quite a lot of people are preparing their product to move to other African countries. Congratulations to those products that moved. And those countries are welcoming Nigerian products. In fact, some of these products have been moving even before after under informal markets. Right? So this is it. So it is now good for the rest of the private sector to embrace this so that they will not be be skeptical about the possibility or not possible. It's already possible. And very soon you will see that more and more Nigerian products will enter African market.
Very interesting.
Let me say this again. For the African continental free trade area, trade and services is a very big opportunity for Nigeria. About 2 weeks ago, the entire Africa said, in terms of IT, Nigeria is #1 country. And this is an area of services. Services is responsible for 54.7% of the increase in Nigerian GDP. I was coming from Nairobi in Kenya, and then before I entered the airport, on the right-hand side, I saw Dangote Institute of Technology. There are so many Nigerian banks in African countries. With African continental free trade area, Nigeria is highly developing services. We are going to have great opportunity to be able to market our activity in terms of services under the 5 priority sector, which is business services, communication services, financial services, travels and tourism, as well as transportation.
Exactly.
So Nigeria is well prepared, and there's very great opportunity for the country.
Exactly. Now, Prof, let's quickly take a look at one of the issues that AfCFTA brought up, the payment structure, the African payment pact-based payment structure. I know you are also part of that because I've seen some of your writings and some of your engagement on it. Tell us a brief about that payment structure. And very interestingly, Nigerian Central Bank is leading that particular pact also, and the federal government. Tell us about it, sir.
You see, the issue about payment, first of all, we started this in ECOWAS, even before Pan-African Payment and Settlement. And that appeared to be my assignment in the ECOWAS Commission. Why are you thinking towards ECOWAS payment and settlement system? ECOWAS started since 1975. The volume of trade between ECOWAS countries is very low. Why? Because somebody wants to buy something from Nigeria, he will have to open letter of credit, right? Quoting it in dollar. America is not contributing anything. But before you know it, America is taking part of the money. You will be quoted in dollar. So a payment system will allow me to be able to buy things in Naira. How? By making sure that something that costs, let's say this thing costs $2 in Nigeria, and I'm buying it from Ghana. The equivalent of $2 will be debited my account in Naira, and then the equivalent of $2 will be credited to account of the Ghana exporter in CD. And that is what is called the payment system. Payment system is trading in your own currency. And we thank ECOWAS head of state. One of the things which President Tinubu did as the chairman of ECOWAS is that in July 2023, he signed, along with other head of state, the Supplementary Act for Payment System in ECOWAS. That is to say that we have been postponing single currency, and unfortunately, and I say unfortunately, in year 2021, the president of, the Prime Minister of France, while we were having a meeting of head of state of ECOWAS in Nigeria, went back to his country, in Cote d'Ivoire, and met with the president of France, not the president of Cote d'Ivoire, and met with Macron, and both of them declared that they are going to make sure that the CFA will be traded via the ECO currency. That is an insult. That's an insult because they are not part of the decision-making process of ECO. Why should the president of France actually say that we have to actually streamline the currency we are developing with that of the CFA, and then that means that whether we want it or not, what they are doing to CFA, they will be still be doing it to ECO. And that's why the ECOWAS said, no, we are going to go ahead with our own payment system. And that is why we now have payment system. Let me say this one. When after knew that ECOWAS is developing this option of a payment system, they equally brought the idea of Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, which is very good. A payment system is to allow importer and exporter to trade among themselves on their domestic currencies. So that is the simple part of it. So with the putting in place of a payment system, that will allow for greater volume of trade because we no longer have to pay any extra amount of money using the intervention of dollar or pound or the currency of a euro in trading among ourselves. So the letter of credit we are going to be issuing is direct from shilling of Kenya to Naira of Nigeria. So that no need to actually go through the intervention of international currency. Exactly. That's the beauty of payment and settlement system.
Exactly. I think many viewers are watching this program that are now learning about AfCFTA. We agree with you, Prof, that this is a laudable project by African countries and it's all accepted. As we round up now, Prof, because we have just a few minutes to round up, what is your advice to the Nigerian coordination office of AfCFTA, because they are doing a lot of work to ensure that this really works. What's your advice to them as we round up?
I think under Segun Awolowo, a lot is being done at the coordination of this. I'm a member of the coordination committee, and I can see transparently what has been done. They are doing a lot. Government need to actually help them to be able to do what they are doing faster. Secondly, there is need to develop understanding of the trade and services sector, which is another growth pool for Nigeria. Then thirdly, infrastructural development must be put in place. You see, even God, before you can create anything, then let there be light.
Exactly.
Under a situation when there is light or there is no light, or when you have light, it's too expensive. People will not be able to produce competitively to be able to export their product. So there must be a way in which government address that. Then other areas like transportation system, that will examine movement of the product across Nigerian border to the area of their shipment will be put in place. Laudable program under custom harmonization activity, as well as other port operator, including the single window, everything must be put in place to enhance this initiative of continental free trade area.
Thank you so much, Prof. And I also want to congratulate you and your other colleague on your export conference that happened last week in Lagos. It was a good outing. I will take Dr. Eno on that. I've already sent him, discussed with him. I've gone and discussed export in Nigeria, because that's what we need to strengthen Naira. Thank you so much, Prof.
All right.
All right, now. So,
thank you, relax.
All right, sir. Enjoy the rest of your day, sir.